what I would like to do is just talk a little bit about public interest work and the kind of value that it brings to the identity of the profession as a whole, and maybe a little bit less about the project. This project grew out of a collaboration between a series of artist collectives and a number of nonprofit groups, including Black Rock Art Foundation, in the mid-2000s. And it was completed in 2008. It is a bandshell that was modular in its construction and was originally placed in the Panhandle Park here in the city, and then moved to a number of other locations, including Fort Mason. And it now resides up in Seattle at another artist collective up there. And so it's had many lives. And for me, that's what's interesting. But it is a story about relationships, I think, and the fact that it brought together a wide group of different communities, including all the people who participated in its making, but then also people who have engaged it in its many different iterations and locations as a venue and as a community gathering space. And so, Amy touched on the 5 reasons why we might do public interest work. And for me, certainly this idea of personal satisfaction is a big part of it. But what grew out of this project were a number of lifelong relationships. And when you take the transactional nature of our professional role in the community out of the equation, it certainly opens up that opportunity. I mean, it's kind of implicit, and I think it's kind of beautiful in a way. And so for me, and in our practice at CMG, having the opportunity and trying to make the space at various points to do that kind of work has been really important for, I think, mainly that reason, really. It's these great relationships that grow out of that. So here's the site in its original incarnation. This is the actual structure itself. It was constructed out of car hoods, water bottles, reclaimed wood and doors, and other elements. And the reason that it came to that palette of materials was actually because, as its public interest function, it was actually part of a communications campaign that was launched by the Department of the Environment to educate the public about waste stream issues, material reuse, repurposing of materials, and then a composting program. And so their agenda was to collaborate with the Black Rock Arts Foundation to develop a program that would create a series of artworks in public parks, would then also create a venue for them to have a series of workshops educating the public on these issues of waste and what the city is doing around those. And so it was really part of a public, kind of communication campaign as much as anything. Interestingly, you see, as Marcel was noting, with a much larger scale project, these material sources around the Bay Area. I spent a fair bit of time in some of the junkyards out there trying to find the car hoods that were most consistent, and came upon the Ford Taurus, which was the most popular car in the mid-90s and found its way into the junkyards in the mid-2000s en masse, and it made the perfect template. So it is interesting, certainly, to think about those material streams at a large scale. Of course, the water bottle, ubiquitous, and how that can be repurposed elegantly. This is a couple of shots from the opening day, actually, out at the Panhandle, where we had a large event. And the idea was that the structure was there for a number of days, months rather. And this is also on opening day. You can see the interior of the structure was cleaned, and then the interior of the hoods was painted. And then we had these circuit board kind of panels that made this kind of industrial Baroque structure. I think it was quite fun and successful in that way as a backdrop for the kind of performances that happened there. The other component of the project that I think was important, and it kind of presaged the era that we're in now with social media and this opportunity to build community that links all these different networks together in physical space as well, was this idea of an interactive website that basically allowed community members to go on through a curated site and book their own time, whether it was for children's story time, a library group did, or whether it was a jug band, or people just coming together to do some music. And that happened pretty consistently, and it was managed and maintained by community members that we organized throughout the process. And so, fundamental thing here was the community building facet of the project, even if it was just for those few months. I think a lot of neighbors met each other who had never come in contact before, for better or worse. You're being too loud, get on out of here. this is San Francisco after all. It was tough to get this thing into the Panhandle, actually, believe it or not. So yeah, I'm actually going to wrap up here pretty much right on time. With this group of guitarists, and just note that the public interest work is often about just bringing people together, and the possibilities of small tactical projects like this are immense in that way.